Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today we have another American whiskey on the cask. It's the Bulleit Rye, but not just the Bulleit Rye, but the Bulleit Rye 12. So this is actually a 12-year-old rye whiskey, matured in virgin American oak. And it says distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, bottled by Bulleit Distilling Corporation in Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, so straight American rye whiskey. To be a straight whiskey, you have to have certain distilling percentages and at least 2 years old. But if you write 12 years old on it, you have to be 12 years old. So straight is just a fancy word that everybody who's an expert knows, yeah, must be a straight whiskey. Straight American rye whiskey. Yeah, they can't call themselves a Kentucky straight rye whiskey because it was distilled. Was it distilled? Distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. So yeah, it's Indiana. It's not the state of Kentucky. It's 46% ABV, and that's 92 proof. And now the question arises. 12 years of age gives you an intense whiskey, but does it make a rye whiskey even more intense, or does it make it more mild, as the rye is a very strong distillate, and the maturation adds more oak flavors to it from the virgin oak. The virgin oak is pretty strong because there's nothing been in there before, but it was the grown tree before. So what is now happening? Is that becoming more intense or less intense, or do these intensities both exist? Let's have a look at the bottle first. This is the bottle, Bulleit Rye, in there in glass, and then the bottom we have Bulleit 95 Rye. The 95 is actually not just a fancy marketing number, but it is the percentage of rye within this rye. The law says 51% rye, but this one has 95% rye and 5% malted barley. It's strange. Usually you need about 8% malted barley to not add any enzymes to the mashing process. So maybe they have some malted rye in there as well to be in the natural way. We never know. And yeah, natural color. So this is a beautiful. Oh, that's not even gold anymore. That's bronze or dark gold. I don't know. It's darker than the usual golden color that you have within a normal whiskey. And a 12-year-old rye whiskey is not a normal whiskey. That's a really good whiskey. And also this is reflected in the price of about 90 euros here in Europe. Maybe it's a little cheaper in America, but it's still a pricey rye whiskey. Let's see if it can hold up. Oh, full of flavors, but it's a nice rye flavor. You have that combined with a lot of oak. So the rye flavors, for me, they always manifest in a little bit of a spicy pine situation. Here you have a bit more of a Christmas spices going on as well. Some cloves and some, I don't know, it's a mixture of Christmas spices. It's pretty difficult to find out, combined with a very mild tone of oak. So that's typical American oak, but in a very intense way. So it's strange to say if this whiskey is smooth or rough, because it's kind of both. It sounds strange, but if you'd have any nose, you'd understand. Or yeah, get yourself the bottle and you will find out. The start in your mouth definitely rough. Rough. Typical 95% rye whiskey. So 95% of the grain is rye, and that's spicy, intense from the start. As you enter later stages of the flavor in your mouth, here comes a lot of wood, a lot of oak. Not so intense with vanilla and caramel, so it's not very sweet. There's a little bit of sweetness of a little bit of a bourbon touch to it, but the spices are just too overwhelming. So yeah, it's a intense, strong whiskey with all kind of flavors. So to the original question, does it become more intense with the age? I would say yes, but intense differently, as in much more flavor and not rougher. It's when you swallow it first, it's rough around the edges like a typical rye whiskey is, but after you swallow it, it's more sophisticated, more mature, more oak, more, yeah, a little bit bitter as well, but not in a very bad way, in a very good way. And I would say it's heavier and oilier than the usual rye whiskey. So this is really a very sophisticated, strong, intense, oaky rye whiskey. Yeah, this is something that you'd have to like if you like your whiskey very intense. So if you're into that kind of stuff, old bourbon, rye whiskeys, then this is an old rye whiskey, and this is exactly for you. If you're more on the mild Scotch single malt train, this might be overwhelming. So you might at least add some water, but maybe that doesn't even slow that rye whiskey down. Yeah, so this was it. Have a look at the Bulleit 95 Rye. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.